gentlemen, it is a fantastic day, and it's high school crunch time once again here on WSPN Sports. We have an excellent show ahead of us, and we got some special guests here today, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of Notre Dame Tritons, which necessarily former Bayport Pirate, don't necessarily like. I feel like I'm being swarmed. As you can see, we kind of got the Brady Bunch look going on high school crunch time. We got Johnny Stamp, that's me, of course, talking. Christian Collins, he'll give you a wave here. He's over in the upper corner. Jack Collins, both play on Notre Dame currently. And then, of course, Dom D'Angelo, the co-host on this show, one of the frequent voices on the show and the voice of NDA. So we got a fantastic show, ladies and gentlemen, for you guys special today. Kind of a Notre Dame edition, I would say. Not necessarily that I like Notre Dame, anything like that, but we do have fun here with the Notre Dame Tritons here today. So I am very appreciative of both of you guys coming on the show. I think we got an excellent show today, and we'll get things started here. But you guys did take on the West Wildcats here actually yesterday, because we are recording on a Saturday, which is kind of a weird thing for Dom and I. Usually we rush it on a Thursday night or Wednesday night, get that recording done, but we had fun here and made a plan. 56-14. My goodness, fellas, you guys really kind of crushed the can and did really well in that contest. But your quarterback, obviously 7 for 10, 100 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. That's, of course, Max Pierce in a phenomenal game. He's very consistent in this quarterbacking. I know you guys have a lot of give a lot of credit to him. He's probably a great guy. I haven't met him. I'd like to meet him. I'd like to meet everybody as much as I can. But let's have you guys talk about that game a little bit and talk about, what was the expectation going into the game. We'll start with Jack here. What were you guys expecting? It is a pretty close trip, and we'll just talk about what you were expecting heading into that game.
Well, we were expecting to do pretty much what we did. And, Coach always says, play our game, don't play down. Don't, worry about who we're playing. Just play our game, play our brand of football. And I feel like we managed that.
Perfect. Christian, you had a huge game in that one. You've been a pretty good force in the backfield. 20 carries, 252 yards, 5 TDs in the contest. Dom, there's not much. We mentioned his name a lot here, but there's not much we can say. But Christian, what was going through your head in that contest? What kind of things were you seeing? What was opening up? What was developing as the game went on? And did you notice any progressions? How did you find the touchdown so much? My goodness.
Well, I got to give a lot of credit to the line, for sure. They definitely opened up a lot of holes for me, and I can't do what I do without them. But also, what I took from their defense and what I saw early is their safeties play soft. They don't feel hard. Their safeties kind of they're on their heels a lot. We watched film today, and we kind of saw that their safeties were just shuffling, kind of just staying, even backing up at times. They just they seemed unsure, and we recognized that really early, and we kind of attacked that point. We ran a lot in between the guard and the tackles, which really worked for us. So that's what we kind of found that and just pounded it every time.
Dom, I'll let you follow up.
Yeah, you've had 10 touchdowns in 2 weeks here, pal. So you're no stranger to finding the end zone. What is that feeling like when you get your second one? The first one probably feels amazing. Once you get your second one, are you kind of thinking, oh man, this, I'm in store for a big night here?
Well, absolutely. Every game I go into it, I plan on 3. I always plan on 3. That is my goal every single game. And if I surpass that, I think that's a really good game for me. Every game is different. Like Kakana, I had 1 touchdown, and then with De Pere, I didn't have one. With Jack came in and finished that drive off for me and had one, which was great. But it's a great feeling. After 2, you're kind of all right, now we're rolling. Offense has got a lot of confidence. It's just it's kind of like a momentum thing. I think of it more in a team aspect than kind of like an individual.
And Jack, I'm just going to bug you here real quick. Speaking on the defensive side of the ball, you play the safety role, and what was your expectation going into that game? What were you seeing from the Wildcats coming into that game? Was there any concern from your defense, or were you guys pretty comfortable where you were at?
We knew that West had some weapons like Dakota Montez, great player. He's a really great player. So props to him. He got 2 touchdowns. But our goal was to let up 0 touchdowns. We obviously did not do that. We let up 2. But yeah, just saying, Dakota's a great player, and that was kind of like our main focus was Dakota and the quarterback.
Dom, you want to follow up?
Yeah, Jack, when you're back there at your safety spot, are you calling the defense or is it someone else in charge? Because you can see everything right in front of you. So are you mainly the one making the call there?
It's me and Charlie mostly. Um, our coach gives us the sign to like what he wants us to run, and then Charlie calls it in the huddle, and I call any like automatic blitzes or just kind of coverage type stuff.
Yeah.
So when you are back there, what's your go-to? Are you just like free safetying it, seeking the ball, and just going there, or are you trying to like kind of stay in your gap, so to speak?
It kind of depends on the week. Um, this week, early on in the game, I was looking more of like run, like trying to contain the, like kind of both ways. Like we knew the quarterback was shifty, so I didn't want to give up any big plays there, but also Dakota is stretch the field deep too, so I was kind of playing both ways there.
And I just want to clarify for those watching, when he refers to Charlie, he's talking about Charlie Hornacek. Very, very talented player on that defense. Really had an impact this season. But let's talk about that offense again. And I got one more player to mention here on on you guys' roster that we haven't mentioned. And he's been a big name. Dom's brought him up a whole bunch, but he had a big game here today. And that's James Flanagan. He had 3 catches, 69 yards, and 2 TDs in the contest. Flanagan, a really consistent tight end for you guys on that offensive side of the ball. How do you think that helps the quarterback situation, knowing that there's kind of like, say if you get in third and long, third and, stretch yards, how, Christian, do you think that helps the offense, especially the quarterback with Mr. Pierce, feel more comfortable with things, especially, I mean, Flanagan's consistent as consistent gets.
No, yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. Yeah, he's extremely reliable. I mean, he catches any ball that's in a 5 foot vicinity of him. He can run. He runs after catch like crazy. He on his first reception of the game against West, he stiff armed 3 kids to get into the touchdown for like 40 yards. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was a really good catch and run. It was really really cool to see. I mean, he's just uber athletic.
And I've got to ask Jack, tackling your brother in practice, that has to be painful in a sense. Maybe you get a good head start on him, but you got to go head to head with Christian on the offensive side and Flanagan, who's a big body tight end. What's that like lining up across from those two fellas and knowing that you're, especially with your brother running right at you? I played. Oh, you're a Pop Warner. I was more of a hockey guy, so I cave more to hockey. But I know that head-to-head contact always gets rough. How is that? How is that? What's that like in practice, lining up against those fellows, and then just knowing that your brother and you get to share every moment on the team together as well.
Yeah, sharing every moment with my brother is very special. It's a very special thing, and I enjoy it a lot. But like lining across with him, he's super shifty. He's like 30 pounds heavier than me too, so it's kind of tough. But he's really hard runner. He really fast. Like his routes are really good too.
Yeah,
Basically do anything. So like yeah, it's tough, but I lock him down as much as possible.
yeah. That's all you can do. Dom, you have anything to follow up here, or else we'll move forward a little bit.
What do you guys think is James Flanagan's biggest attribute to the team? Do you think he's a better tight end or a better pass rusher? Because he's leading the team in sacks this year too. We'll start with Christian on that.
I think kind of a hard one because since we don't pass as much, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, he's an incredible blocker. He's a really good blocker in the offense. But defense, he just seems to have a knack to getting to the quarterback every time. I mean, he had a strip sack, or I don't know if it was a strip sack or he just had a strip tackle for a fumble. He had a good defensive game yesterday.
Jack,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think he's amazing on both sides, and it just kind of comes down to hustle. He just does not take a play off, and offense and defense, where it comes to blocking, to catching passes, to sacking the quarterback, he just doesn't take a play off.
good to hear. I mean, you love to hear it and love to see it on the field as well for you guys, Notre Dame Tritons. Now, let's move a little bit here forward and talk about this upcoming weekend. You guys have Oshkosh North coming in town, or, coming into town playing at Ted Frisch Field, correct?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, Ted Frisch
You're
Field.
you're starting to learn here. You're becoming more versed with the Notre Dame verbiage, which is
It's a
good.
sad, sad day. Um, Oshkosh North coming at home. Who are you guys taking in the contest? Obviously, I know which direction you're going to go, but I'm going to push you guys for a score prediction and who are you guys taking, and then we'll move forward to my final question, kind of Notre Dame side of things, and see where you guys land. All right, we'll start with Christian here, just kind of work the Brady Bunch. Then we'll go to Jack and Dom, and then I'll do mine last.
Really, I'm taking Notre Dame. I think we're gonna win by a landslide. I think it's gonna be similar to West. I'm gonna give it probably 49-14 up around there. That's maybe 49-7. I mean, I think what we really need to do is lock down their quarterback and lock down their receivers. They have a good pass game, but their line is very small. So I think that's going to be something that we need to attack and something that we're going to need to focus on.
All righty. And how many touchdowns do you think you have in this one?
I'm going to say 4.
4. There's a
Like I said before, I mean, I like always going for 3, but if I get more than that, it's a pretty good night. It's a good day in the office.
All right, now let's move down because actually Jack is right below me on the screen. Let's go over to Jack. Mr. Jack, you play on the defensive side of the ball. What's your score prediction for this one? And how many turnovers do you expect that defense to have? And do you expect to have any yourself?
Well, I haven't had a pick yet this year,
So you're
so
due.
this is the game to do it. This is the game to do it. So I hope we lock him down 0 points. I'm giving this one 40. Let's go 42-7.
42-7. And how do they score? The guy gonna ask from the defensive side of the ball. Where would you see them scoring?
Um, I would see them scoring probably by pass. Um, I know they pass a lot and they've got a really good pass game. So um, uh, we will lock them up most of the time. But if one of our corners gets burned or they slip or something like that, there's your touchdown.
Yeah, that can always happen, and no blame to you. Defense is a tough thing to do. I tried to mimic it with the family Thanksgiving thing, and I just like offense better. It's just easier for me to, get the ball and run rather than try to mimic whoever my athletic cousin tries to do. Not really that they're any athletic, but I'm getting older and fat. And Dom, we'll move it to you. Score prediction. You've done this before. You can do it again. Let's do a score prediction for Ted Frisch Field, Mr. NDA.
Yeah, to Jack's point, they do pass it a lot. Bryce Ott's their starting quarterback. 17 touchdowns, 0 picks. So, Jack, you're going to be his first interception this year. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that. Uh,
My
I,
dog.
I agree. I'm going to go with Notre Dame in this one. I'm going to say I'm going to go 35 because they have shown that they can play some defense this year. So I do think Christian probably does get at least a hat trick for scoring wise. So I'm gonna go 35-7. Notre Dame wins it on senior night, and I think Jack gets his senior night interception as he's mobbed by the
Oh
fans
yeah,
coming out the
Dom.
field. That's gonna be
Oh
great.
yeah, Dom.
Dom going with the. Now this one I ain't gonna trick you, Dom. I ain't gonna trick you. I ain't gonna tease you on it. I would expect Notre Dame just based on what I've seen from the wins. You guys look a lot better than probably, and I think you guys are a pretty good team. You just kind of just demolishing every team you guys walk towards. I'm saying it frankly, as nicely as I can. You guys had a close one against De Pere, 7-3, which was kind of a odd D game, but that wasn't a huge deal. I expect you guys to win, and I'm gonna go. Now, if they pull, I'm gonna give Jack his first touchdown here, but I think it's gonna be by way of late fumble. You're gonna smack it. You're gonna give the old peanut punch, and you're gonna. I got a feeling you're gonna creep. It's gonna be a. See, this is where I make it fun. It's going to be a slant route over the middle. Here comes Jack running down, cuts him off. Peanut punches the ball out and gets that fumble, picks it up. I'm not going to give you the 6, but I'll give you the fumble pick recovery. I think that's going to happen, and it's going to be a fun night for Triton fans as you guys have had a pretty successful season, I would say. And we'll move into a conversation I had with Christian before here just now. But I'm giving you guys the win, and I'm going to go. I can't help but go 42 to. I'll give them 10. 42-10. I think they do get a field goal along with a touchdown somewhere in the mix. I think you guys have a splendid game, and I really hope you guys do. I'm hoping to be there, depending on what kind of game and my work schedule looks like. Busy man. Dom knows it as well as anybody. But I'm going to try to be there, and I'll see what happens. But afterwards, I'm going to expect to meet you guys and hopefully get a picture for the podcast. But I'm giving you guys the win, 42-10, and a big night for both of you. Jack, I see you touching down in the Holy Land once again a few times. And then, Christian, and then Jack, I hope you get that first turnover of the year, first interception, or actually forced fumble, which, give it the peanut punch. But let's talk about this question here.
Either.
This question here that I talked about with Christian because he came on a little bit earlier before Jack did, preemptively, but we did talk about it. Now, how do you guys feel, and Dom will talk about it too, about moving to the north of the FRCC? So the FRCC North, especially with as loaded of a roster of a team you've had, and your teams in the past year, last year you guys were pretty good into the conference. Getting into a little more, I would say, competitive conference, and maybe not having such blowout wins. And then, what's your opinion on that? If that happened, would you guys be okay with it, or would you want maybe you're fine where you're at? We'll start with Jack here and talking about that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the move would be a lot more beneficial for the team just to get more experience, more more live bullets. It's like playing East and like Sheboygan South. That's not gonna prepare us for playoffs in the future. And I feel like if we were in the North, we'd be a lot more prepared for playoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Christian talked about. But we'll have Christian explain what he was saying before the show, and how he would feel if that move were, say it happened before this season, how he'd feel about that move.
Well, I think it would just going off what Jack is saying, it would prepare us. I would say probably 5 times more for playoffs than FRCC South would. The FRCC North has some great competition. Like West De Pere is very good this year. De Pere's good. We should not have won 7-3. I'll just put that out there. But
Wow.
FRCC South.
And no shout out to Bayport.
There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that.
Is there?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, but Bayport is a good team. Bayport is a good team.
Oh, it just gives
I
us
think
pity
we could
stuff.
beat 'em. Yeah.
I'm just messing with you, Christian.
We'll beat them. We could beat them, but
Yeah.
yeah, there you go, Dom. I think that the FRCC South has too many teams like East and West. Like, Chev North gave a little bit of a not a struggle, but they gave it a little bit more competition. Chev South, East, and West just are teams that I feel like not. I feel like they tarnish our league a little bit. They kind of I don't know, like when we play them, it kind of makes us look a little bad. We don't look as good as a team when we beat a team 60-0 because it's like, oh yeah, it's East and West. But I think that going into the next years, that if we went into the North, that would be probably one of the most competitive conferences in the state if we obviously brought in Menasha as well.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that too. But we'll have Dom first talk about just bringing in Notre Dame, and then we'll talk about other teams that potentially would go in there.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that's been said, and you look at the scores to some of these games. I mean, first two games of the year was a 16-13 game against Kakana, and then a 7-3 game, maybe a little fluke deal there against De Pere. But then rest of these scores: 35-14, 56 nothing, 42 nothing. Menasha was a good game, 28-21. But then last 2 weeks, that's quick math here. That's 105, something like that, 115 to 14
Wow, you read
difference.
big books.
I sure do.
Yep.
Difference in the score. So I agree with getting the competition back up there. I know that not too long ago, within the last few years, there was some sort of realignment. I forget exactly how that worked, but um, you look at where Notre Dame is as a program, you look at where Menasha is as a program, um, compared to some of the other programs in this conference. That's just you're comparing an apple to you're comparing an apple
Watermelon.
to a watermelon or
There you
something.
go.
So it's a huge difference, and I think also that people know that, and so that's why the last couple of years when Notre Dame would host a game against Sheboygan South or Green Bay East or one of these rebuilding programs, that there's not as much enthusiasm, there's not as much fan involvement because they kind of know what the story's going to be. It's like, oh, it might be interesting for the first 3 minutes, and then Christian's going to rush 70 yards like three times, score all of them. Jack and the defense are going to lock everybody up, and it's just not going to be that enjoyable, that entertaining to watch. Whereas you put them up against Kakana, like it was packed for Kakana. De Pere was a good atmosphere. And then you get that Bayport game back. You get West De Pere coming into the conference full time in every sport starting next year. They're in it for football this year. That's going to really help with involvement and excitement. It's going to make for better games, and it's going to help everybody to, your guys' point, when it gets to postseason time, when you have to play some of these schools that are not in this area, but you've been battle tested and you've seen everything. So I don't know. I'm not in. I have no right. I'm a high school senior on a podcast with a couple buddies
Some
here.
random guy.
Some random guy and two guys I go to school with who I've known for a long time.
Yeah.
To make a decision to move conferences, especially since I know it's happened somewhat in the not so distant past, but I think it's something that needs to be looked at, especially on a football level.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think you guys are plenty capable enough to handle yourself in the North, and I really think it would give more credential, and it would also entice fans to get out and show up, because I do broadcasting once in a while. I showed up to a game with Dom, and it just seemed kind of empty and bare, and I was like, yeah, it's because they're playing East or West, and not to discredit those programs. They're still working on things, trying to get them going, but I think a little more competition, getting some of those other schools in there, and then obviously benefiting you guys in the playoffs. You're going to see those bigger, better schools. I believe you guys are D3, D2?
E3.
D3. Okay. So you're going to get, like, I believe New Richmond's D3, and they're ranked at the top level, so you might see them in the playoffs. I think they're actually like 6 or something on the Max Preps guide rankings, but that might have changed after this week. I haven't checked. But yeah, I definitely think you guys would benefit from moving up. I think Menasha could come up potentially, and also as well. And then Southwest and Preble potentially joining the South and kind of balancing things out. And then you got all the Green Bay schools within the same conference, which is good for that Green Bay public school district instead of splitting it up in two ways. I know Preble is a huge school and Southwest are both huge schools, but I think where they're at right now, especially in the football program, I think it'd be more beneficial for them to rework against teams that are kind of not at their level and work their way up to getting in at that top tier. But let's move on a little bit because we have talked a lot about Notre Dame. Real quick here, we'll run through Neenah. Neenah beats Fond du Lac 25-7. And obviously, Dom, we've talked about Neenah a lot. I'm sure you guys have heard about Neenah. They have a really good team led by, I would say, Grant Dean. We were at the game last weekend, and that game was nuts. It was probably, what do you say, Dom, 3,000 people there?
Sure felt like it, yep.
It was a big stadium. It was a lot of people. It was rocking. Neenah's playing good football, but we're not going to really talk about that. Let's just move on to one more. And this was a big game. We talked about this one because it's a potential sleeper win. But Kimberly, they came out, and they beat Kaukauna 38-20. And a good contest there. What are your guys' thoughts first? I want to talk to you guys because you guys did get a contest against Kimberly, I believe, right? Correct in the beginning, or Kaukauna, I mean.
Kaukauna.
Yep, in the beginning of the season. So let's talk, orientate it more to our guests here, Dom. Let's talk about Kaukauna as a team. So what were you guys seeing on the offense? And we'll actually start with Jack, because he plays that defensive side of the ball. What were you seeing from Kaukauna that made them such a kind of a powerhouse program? And I definitely think in the next few years it's going to be a really good school.
Yeah, so their line is really big, and they're very physical. So that's one of their really good upsides for them. They had Parker Shue, who's a really good receiver. I believe he's going to Duluth. And a couple other just weapons that helped out with that. And but yeah, I think their line was the best, their strongest point for their offense.
So you think their offense was led by the line. Now, on the other side of the ball, we talked to Mr. Christian Collins. Christian, that defense from Kaukauna, it's a solid defense, and they put up good numbers. I mean, they hold numbers pretty well. You guys, fortunately, were able to come out. I can't remember now. I'm Dom. I'm going to misquote it here, and it's going to be on our bloopers. You guys did get the win there, right, against Kaukauna?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we did get the win, yep.
Okay, I just wanted to double check because I was going to say I get so confused and combobbled. But what was on the defensive side of the ball, or talking about offense, going to the defense, what were you seeing from Kaukauna? What made them such a good team? And it was obviously a good contest between you two, and they really put together a really nice program here this season. What did you see from Kaukauna here?
Kaukauna had an extremely good defensive scheme, I thought. They played really good when we were within 10 yards. We had a few where we didn't quite finish. I think 2 where we were like on the 5-yard line and couldn't finish, but finished through the end zone, which was unfortunate, but luckily we did get the win. Their defensive line was probably their strong suit. They were very strong. Their linebackers were probably right up there as well. They flowed hard. I would say they're probably second to one of the best defensive lines we've seen, or just defenses in general, since Wanakee.
Yeah.
I would say that's
Yeah, that was their focal point, was that D-line?
yes, yeah, for sure.
So we're talking about lines. You guys both kind of said the flip. So big lines all over the place. Dom, how did you feel about Kaukana's program here? Yes, they did lose, but obviously to Kimberly, which is kind of, we would call them the Death Star, the Evil Empire, whatever you want to call them. Kimberly is obviously a really good school. They come out every year and play really good ball. But what you were at that game, I believe. What were you seeing from Kaukauna that you thought was really good and something that the team can look forward to and progress forward with?
Really physical at the point of attack. I thought to both Jack and Christian's point, really did not get pushed around too much. I feel like that's been kind of a Notre Dame staple the last couple of years, is they're just able to move the line of scrimmage wherever they want to, both offensively and defensively. And Kakana held their ground really strongly. Um, to put it in context, Christian averages around, let's call it 9-10 yards to carry. He only averaged 3.5 in that Kakana game. Still got his touchdown, so he was still doing his thing. Um, but really, really talented at the point of attack, and offensively, yeah, they've got weapons all over the field. And I got to give Jack and that defense credit, because Parker Shue's been one of the best receivers in football this year. He's been really tearing up people. Not quite as big a game in the game that they played him, only 73 yards. So, really a big credit to that defense. And also, I thought, they're just a really well coached program over there, really buttoned up. There weren't any really, game wrecking penalties in the game. So I know they had kind of a tough one against Kimberly, which they did hold a lead for a while in this one, then kind of lost it in the fourth quarter, it looks like. So Kakana all around is a really strong program. They're right near the top of the FVA. I believe they were actually number one as of a week ago, and I think they're still tied for number one because
Yeah, lost to Nina for Kimberly.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of a three-way tie-up at the top between Kakana, Kimberly, and Nina. So it's going to be an interesting finish for them. I think they have Appleton East next week.
Yeah, they do.
So Kakana, really strong program, really good both on the offensive and defensive line, and that's where football games are won and lost, and that's why we're talking a lot Notre Dame on this show. Their offensive and defensive lines have been right up there as some of the best in the state, so that's why they've been on this run that they've had.
Yeah, and Kakana, I learned this year that they do the horse thing, and I think it is the coolest freaking thing that you can do. Having the galloping ghost riding out and doing that sort of thing, I think it's really fun. Kakana's been phenomenal. Obviously, they've you got that FVA with Kimberly there. Kimberly is just a dominant school, all around in football, and it's just a tough loss. But we'll talk here a little bit here. Now, Ellison, 13 for 16, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7 carries, 41 yards, and he looked good again, Dom. And, now you guys have a very consistent quarterback, I would say. So Ellison, we've always said, was very consistent in what he does. He's not really, I would say, not necessarily a huge play guy because he doesn't necessarily get into those situations, but he's going to keep cooking downfield. But I'd also say that Notre Dame's quarterback's Max Pierce. Huge shout out to him. He's pretty consistent as well, and you guys both can credit to that. Now we'll start with Christian here. What do you see from Pierce that you think is really beneficial to the team, being so consistent and everything else? What does he bring to that offense?
Well, I think he brings a lot of security. I think that he's extremely accurate. I mean, everyone has their off days, but I think he has a lot less of those moments than most people. Um, I think that he works really hard at what he does. He kind of he's a grinder.
Yeah.
He's he's really good at what he does. He's only a junior, so he's a year to develop as well. I think he definitely can go play college football, but the way he kind of I don't think in the past we've had a quarterback that can no disrespect to any quarterbacks that we've had in the past, but this year throughout all 4 years, I think this is the most confident in a quarterback I have been, and I think I give him the most credit.
Perfect. I mean, I confidence in a quarterback is a huge thing, even at the high school level where you're doing a lot of runs. But Jack, we're gonna flip the script here. Obviously, you're on the defensive side of the ball. You're seeing what happens in practice now, not necessarily games, so it's a little different. But in practice, what are you seeing from Pierce that you really like with his consistency? Because Dom and I each week talk about how he's consistent, doesn't turn the ball over. He's going to get his scores, maybe not put up the most numbers right now, but he doesn't get in those situations where he has to. So what are you seeing on that defensive side that you really like about Mr. Pierce?
On practice, like 7-on-7s, if he makes a mistake, uh, he realizes what he did, and he like understands his mistake, and he like makes sure he doesn't do it again. He makes good decisions and good throws, mostly on time. And if something's a little off, he'll feel it, and next play, get right back up. Everything's on time. It's right on the money. So he's, like you've said, he's consistent and makes really good decisions on where to put the ball. Christian's point, he's very secure with it, and I don't know what he's had, like 2 interceptions this whole year. So yeah, I'm very confident in Max going forward.
Yeah, and I fully expected you guys to be that way. Dom, do you have anything to mention on here with Pierce and his consistency? Talking about Olsen, Pierce, both kind of consistent quarterbacks. Do you have anything to mention there?
Yeah, what's Jack? So Christian was out for a couple of games there. You took over mainly as the kind of the dual bell cow role with Kingston Allen. What's he like in the huddle as a leader and a play caller?
Um, the huddle, he's clear, like when he calls it, and if he sees someone do something wrong, he makes sure you hear it, and I think that's very important from a leadership standpoint to get everyone on the same page, and that'll be very important for us going forward and into playoffs, that we're all on the same page, and that'll be very important for our success.
And Christian, a couple weeks ago at Menasha, it was a tie game with 30-something seconds left. You guys got the ball. How was his poise? How did he handle that big moment before he eventually found Charlie Hornacek for that game-winning touchdown pass?
I think he handled it extremely well. Like most quarterbacks kind of think like, oh, maybe I got to take a deep shot here, but no, he kept calm. He kind of trusted the line he stayed in the pocket through a 5 yard or 10 yard out, and we were able to make a play on it. And Charlie made a heck of a run on that, and we were able to get away with a run.
It's awesome to hear that he puts you guys in good situations. You guys are feeling confident with him, and that's one thing that I think, and he doesn't get in those tough situations like you were mentioning, where you take a deep shot or you can just dump it off and get a secure catch, get a couple yards and chew it down. I think that's huge, especially at that level. I've seen a lot of guys take the deep shots and it doesn't work out so well. You see a guy like Jack Collins scooping in and just be a ball hawk. Now he's going to get his first one, ladies and gentlemen. We're calling it here. We're calling the shots. We don't mind being a little aggressive here. But let's take up score prediction here. Now, the Papermakers, they go against Appleton North here to close things out. Appleton North did have a hot start to the season to get things going, but have kind of fell off and cooled off their Dom. But what is the score prediction here? We'll start with Christian this time. Give us a score prediction, Papermakers versus the Lightning.
I think I'm gonna have to go Kimberly over Appleton North. I'm gonna go 35-34.
Ooh, a tight one. I like it. I like it. He sounds like my kind of shooter here, Dom. And Jack, what are you thinking?
I don't know too much about Appleton North, but I think I'm going to take Kimberly. I'll take Kimberly, and I know that they're perennially, a good team, and so I'll take Kimberly in a 35-21 contest.
All right, now we'll turn the tables over to Dom. Dom, who are you taking? Where are you going with this one for Kimberly, Appleton North?
I'm in a similar boat as Jack. I think it's Kimberly senior night. They're at home. They're also battling for the top of the conference. There's a three-way tie, like I previously stated, with Kakana and Nina. Appleton North is coming off of a win last week. It was kind of a weird score, 12-0.
That is a weird one.
Yeah, kind of a weird score there. They really needed to win last week. They had two tough losses. I think Kimberly at home on senior night's a little bit much to handle. So I'm actually gonna agree with Jack here. I'm gonna go 35 to 21. I do think Appleton North's gonna put up a good fight because they have played every team that's near the top of their schedule really tough. But I think Kimberly is just a little bit too well of an oiled machine at this point. So they're going to close out their season and their senior night the right way.
Yeah. And I'm kind of on the same page. I never usually try to be on the same page as you guys. Or at least
we saw how that went last week. Yeah.
I usually take the hot shots, but I'm going to have to go Kimberly here. I'll go 28-14 over the Lightning. 28-17. I'll give Lightning another field goal there. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a fun game. I think the Kimberly fans are in for a good one. The faithful really travel well. But I got them going. And now let's switch it over to Kaukauna. We were talking about Kimberly Kaukauna, but Kaukauna, plays Appleton. I think they got Appleton. Now I'm losing it here. Appleton East on the road. And who do you got in that contest? We'll start with Jack this time. Move the script around, then over to Christian, and then we'll go Dom. Take a score prediction, Appleton East, and the Kaukauna Galloping Ghosts.
Again, don't know too much about that Appleton team, but I do know a lot about that Kaukauna team. And from their line to their weapons to their defense, I'm going to have to take Kaukauna and probably give them 35-14.
That's a great prediction. I like the 35s here. A lot of touchdowns coming in the contest, but then now we're gonna flip it to Christian. Christian, who you got?
I got Kaukauna. I'm gonna go 28-7.
28-7. Really, really tight defense there, that contest. And finally, Dom, who are you going with?
Kaukauna is on the road, so that can maybe cause some struggles. I still think that they're just an overall better team at this point than Appleton East, and they need a bounce back win in a big way. Tough one at Kimberly. So I'm taking Kaukauna. I'm gonna go 28-10 over Appleton East. I think it's gonna be kind of goofy to look at the standings when we're doing this next week with three teams supposedly at the top.
Yeah, and that's gonna be fun for that broadcast. But right now, gotta go Kaukauna over Appleton East. Appleton East has had their struggles. Just looking at Kaukana's team, Braun Schaefer didn't have a huge game in the last contest, 67 yards, 2 TDs. But I definitely think they're a team that's going to recuperate and really come out and start firing pistols. And I think Appleton East, unfortunately, is going to be that team that they go off on. I'm going to give them 31 for Kaukauna, the Galloping Ghosts. And then I'm going to move to let's do 31-17 for the, I think they're the Patriots, right?
I think that's correct.
Yep. So I'll give that 31-17 in favor of the Galloping Ghosts. Now let's move on to the other team that had a huge game yesterday. And we are talking on a Saturday, everybody. It is great to have you with us. But we're talking about football here in Bayport. Yep, Dom, you can smile a little bit. Yep, they lost 43-45 to West De Pere. Matt Stevens, 18 for 25, 255 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 fumble. And then on the ground, he also performed well. He had 12 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Brady Moon, 23 carries, 87 yards, 2 TDs. And Sawyer Torp, 9 catches, 128 yards, and 1 TD. But they fall to the Phantoms of West De Pere in probably what's going to make up the conference for the FRCC North. And, gentlemen, did you hear about this game at all? How nuts it was?
I did. Was that a 50-yarder?
It was marked down as a 49-yarder. And I was there, and it was an absolute bullet off the foot. Like, it was no arc on it at all. Just kind of came like a line drive.
It looked like he had like 5 yards to spare too.
Oh yeah, he had room to spare. When they lined up, I'll tell you through my thoughts. So it was they gave the ball back, so they scored on the 2-point conversion. They went with a little tight end slip screen and kind of got it through. But then they give the ball back. I think there was only 28 seconds left. Now in high school football, it's a little different. Once you get that first down, the clock does stop, so that helped them a little bit. And what happened was, obviously, Greison's going to do his thing. He's going to try to cook that defense. And he was picking the defense. So he went for, I believe, 2 passes. And he gained about, I would say, like 47 yards. Or like close to 50 yards. Working the way ball back because Bayport did kick deep. And I think they took it out just for a couple yards extra than what they would have got on touchback. And what happened was, there was about 8 seconds left, I believe, and there was one final play, and the Greison threw it towards the sideline. Now, as a Bayport fan, I'm going to say he wasn't down, but it's going to give a little controversy here. So what happened was Greison called the snap, 8 seconds left, had the kind of an out route. I thought the Bayport defender had his hips off the ground, his knee didn't hit the ground, elbow didn't hit the ground when they completed the pass, and they kind of kept him up. But then there was a huge discussion between the refs whether his elbow or knee were down, and because they had a timeout, preemptively, Coach Greison came down the sidelines, was in the ref's ear right away. But then the clock expired. But then the refs came together wondering whether the foot or knee or the elbow or knee was down, and it was probably 2 minutes just waiting there, seeing what was going on, and we're all standing there wondering if the game's over because Bayport went out and celebrated already. And then they ran back to the sidelines because the sideline kind of, got excited, marched off and everything. And then they called that he was down. So they put a second on the clock. Now they line up from the right hash, 49 yards out. And I was thinking, no way. Like, no way. Like, if you can kick this ball, you should be in the pros already. And he hits it right on the pins, like kind of like you're sculling on iron in golf. I don't know if you guys play golf at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, hitting it thin, and he hit it so like a line drive, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was watching it, and then all of a sudden you see the Phantoms come emerging from their sidelines. They had their white uniforms on, so they did look like Phantoms, and they came emerging from their sidelines, celebration, because they went through it, and I'm like, no way, like no way. And that was a huge finish to the ending. I mean, I give credit to both teams. I have friends on West De Pere. But they played a really good game. They played a solid game. And we'll run here real quick on, obviously, Mr. Greison's stat. He was 23 for 28, 320 yards, 5 TDs, 1 interception. But it was just an odd ending, and it was kind of, what you expected. Dom and I went to a game last week in that Nina Kimberly game where it ended with the field goal, and it's the same situation. I must just be the field goal guy here, Dom. But what an ending to a game, fellas. I mean, what a way to win conference, too, essentially, if they, clear out and win this next week. But what do you think of that? I know I'm kind of drawing it up for you, but if you're hitting a late second field goal, what's that emotion going through like on the sideline?
Well, before the kick, the nerves are so high. You just don't know if it's going to go in or not. And it's high school, so obviously the kickers aren't as consistent as, the college level or, the pros obviously are super consistent. But you just never know. And when it goes in, just a big sigh of relief and just happiness all over.
Christian?
No, I completely agree with Jack. It's just I guess all that nervousness builds up, and then you just kind of let it out, and it's like it's a really good feeling. I mean, not only just winning, but just knowing that your kicker got the job done.
Yeah, and Dom, from a broadcasting side, what's that like? I mean, I've done it before, where it's the last second field goal, but how does that feel? I mean, it's so good when it's on your side.
It has to be, right? I've had a couple of good calls on different situations, maybe not necessarily football, but I think you kind of, when you take it pretty seriously, I think you kind of get in the same mindset as the players, right? When you just have this, this excitement and this just, feeling going through your body about, that you're anxious to see what's going to happen, and you have to react instantaneously to it. So I was watching that thing. Shout out to Chris Lehrman, who is a buddy, a mutual friend of ours, who
Yeah, he
was
got
on
me
the
a free
call for
ticket.
that. Yeah, there you go. So I mean, you could just tell like he was anticipating what was happening the entire time, and I think he'll probably tell you this, he was probably in shock when he saw that thing go through, because I mean that was a bullet,
That
man.
was
It
a
was
boot.
pretty amazing. But uh, I wanted to ask Jack. West De Pere is a pretty interesting team. Contrast to pretty much every team in this area, they throw it a lot more than they run it. So as a defender, how would you? I think you both probably had a similar idea with this game plan going in against Kakana week one. How would you approach it from a defensive standpoint, trying to guard such a pass-happy offense?
Um, I would probably play um maybe cover two man maybe. Um, have maybe Charlie Shadow, one of their best players for a receiver, and just kind of stay deep. Don't let anything by you. That's probably like the most important thing for that offense because 300 yards passing in high school is crazy.
It certainly
And
is, and he's been doing it consistently throughout the season. Now, I want to flip it over to Christian. You're on the offense. You're on the sideline watching that happen. Say it's your defense. What's going through your head as a player? Watching that go through and being on that opposing team. What's the emotion like?
Well, I just gotta ask, like the situation, like what's the situation?
It's a late field goal. The other team's lining up. Your defense has let them just, I guess, within range at 49 yards. It's within range, and you're on the sideline watching it happen, and you have this feeling of, oh, this might go in. What's that feeling like? Just watching, anxious? Are you anxious or nervous, or what's going through your mind?
Oh, it's a terrible feeling because you just don't know what's gonna happen. Like, kind of going off what Jack was saying, just like the consistency. You just it's like a 50-50 ball kind of. It's you just don't know what's gonna happen. It's just that anxiety, and if it doesn't go in, then it's in like a miracle. It's just like it's awesome. It's a great feeling if it doesn't, but if it does, it's probably one of the worst ways to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what that Bayport sideline was feeling. They do have Pulaski here to close things out at home. We'll take a score prediction there, and then we'll just move over to West De Pere for a score prediction. Then we're going to have a couple fun questions for the fans to get to know both. I was going to use both last names, but Mr. Jack and Mr. Christian a little bit more here towards the end. Dom and I will kind of think of some questions here. But what is a score prediction for Pulaski Bayport? We'll start with Christian this time. Christian, you go ahead.
I'm gonna take Bayport 35-10.
35-10. Let's move on to Jack.
I'll take Bayport as well, and I'm going to take Bayport 42-14.
Perfect. Now, Mr. Dom.
I think Bayport wins because they're at home. I do think Pulaski is going to give them a game. They're 5-3 on the season. They are capable of scoring points. That said, they've struggled to score points against some better teams in the conference this year. So I'm going to say Bayport wins it. I'm going to go 41-17.
And I'm going to go the same direction. Bayport Pirates get the big win to close out the season. Not necessarily wanting to lose this week, but I'm going to go with 35-10 in favor of the Pirates. And I did forget one question between you fellows that I did want to ask the players. And then we'll ask Dom, too, as a broadcaster during live broadcast. So one thing I noticed during the game was the fan section was, very quiet. the whole game. They were not very interactive with the game, and I would say West De Pere's fan base was more loud. But what does the fan? So especially in a home game, how you guys want fans there, correct? Obviously, just give a nod there. Yeah, you want fans there, but how did the fans play a role in the game? Because they were really quiet throughout that whole game. I know I had a lot of parents really kind of upset with the fans, the student section, because we could hear West De Pere all the way across the field, but you couldn't hear the Pirates on right next to us. And so, how does the fan section play a role, and how do you think the fans contribute to the game? We'll start with Jack this time.
It's always nice to hear your fans. It's not so nice to hear the other team's fans. So when you're at home, you always want to hear your fans, and when you hear the other team's fans, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel like your team really has your back. And when your sidelines are loud and when your stands are packed, when your stands are loud, I think overall you play better, you feel better, and you just have a better outcome.
Yeah, and it's got to be nice hearing the cheering, especially when you're making a big play or your team's making a big play. But now we'll move to Christian. Christian, how do you think, what's it like having fans, and how do they impact the game?
Well, I think it gives for sure some confidence. I think that when you hear your fans cheer, like say after a touchdown or a great defensive play, it kind of just gets that like adrenaline flowing. It gets that you kind of get pumped up, it just you wanna play for a crowd. You wanna play for a crowd that's really into it. You wanna play for people that I mean, yeah, you play for your family. That's kind of like the number one thing, but you want to play for people that are really into it. And I just think it's a great aspect of the game. Like you see these big D1 programs have these great atmospheres. Like that's the stuff you dream for. It's the stuff you live for. So it's awesome.
And that's really good to hear. It's good to hear that you guys do appreciate the fans. Dom, on a broadcast, isn't it nice to have a little fan volume?
I consider it necessary to have fan volume because sometimes, and you can speak to this too, Johnny. Sometimes it takes the mic for you. So I remember it was a close game, week one, against Kakana, and Christian bounced one to the outside for 27 yards, and he raced to the end zone and got in for a score. And I just didn't say anything. I finished, saying, Christian Collins touchdown or whatever I said. And then it was you could hear it coming through my microphone pretty well. It was the place was jumping in there. And so I just didn't say anything for a couple seconds. I just let the crowd do the talking. I remember when Jack had a huge touchdown. I wasn't on the call for this one, but at De Pere, that ended up being the winning score. There was a great fan section there, and it was a really tough, gritty game, and the De Pere side of things was pretty packed on the opposite side. And then you see Jack going between the tackles and get in the end zone, and the Notre Dame section of the stadium just erupted, and it was an awesome atmosphere to be in. So from a broadcaster's perspective, I try to play to the crowd even more than I do on this podcast that we do.
We're gonna get a live audience one day.
We should. We should. So fans are absolutely necessary. They make the game day experience for the players, for the coaches, for for the families of the players, and for the announcers, just that much more memorable. Because that Kakana game I'll never forget walking into the entire day, just the buzz in the hallways when you're walking around, and then I get to the stadium a couple hours early. People are already there and they're excited for it, and they were even more excited when the ball was kicked off. So fans are necessary, and it's what you should be doing on a Friday night, is going to watch your school.
Yeah, and I'm totally on the same page. Now, once in college, we had to do a broadcast in a basketball court that was a barn form, and we were up high up for the NCAA tournament, and it was so loud you couldn't hear the other guy, and you're trying to call plays. So it is a lot of fun when it's really loud, and we just had So we're just, obviously doing radio. So you have to explain things, but we're yelling into the mics because we can't hear ourselves. So we assume that they can't hear us, and they couldn't hear us. And we got the message from the operator saying that, yeah, we literally cannot hear you. Try to find a quieter spot. And we had no connection to go to it, but we just had to go with it and just try to explain things as they were happening. So I think fans are a huge thing. Now, one other thing that I just thought of right now, because it really kind of, and I know it's a different era now from when I was in high school, but why? I guess the WIA doesn't allow any noisemakers or anything, and that kind of drives me nuts because back in my day, now I'm aging myself, I graduated in 2017. I'm not that old, ladies and gentlemen. I am a little bit older. But we used to have like vuvuzelas, cowbells up there, but they don't allow any noisemakers. Now, as a player, fellas, would that bother you, noisemakers, those sorts of things? Or would that, especially even if you were on the road, say, and the fans were allowed noisemakers and that sort of things? But I saw a big sign that they're not. And would that bother you? Would that impact your play? Or do you think, that would motivate you because you can shut up the audience, you can shut up the other team, and, make them real quiet? We'll start with Christian.
Well, for me, most times, no matter what, the crowd, like as soon as I kind of step on the field to go and prepare for offense, it just kind of zone out. Like for me, if like noisemakers, crowd, no matter how big the crowd is, I just feel like it would just be like white noise to me. Like it would just be, I usually get into a place where I can zone out and just kind of lock in and kind of do what I need to do without being distracted by outside noise.
Sweet. Now, Jack?
I agree with Christian there, but also it's also great when you're on defense and the crowd is super pumped. You could barely hear the guy next to you, and it's super good for the defense because the offense can't hear the cadence that well, and he's got to speak super loud and whatever. But it also just playing with that crowd noise and just feeling that energy and feeding off of it is super super great.
And finally, Dom. In the broadcast, noisemakers can cause a little trouble, but I've never had an experience where I really cared.
I don't think I'd care too much, to be honest. I think it's gamesmanship in certain aspects.
Little chess
so,
match.
Gonna say I would like it. I do have a question for our two guests here, and we'll start with Jack. What's the loudest game you can remember playing in?
And I can remember playing in was probably the De Pere one. That was loud. The atmosphere was great.
The one from this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Christian, how about you?
I would say either De Pere or the Kakana game this year. Like
So both this
those
year.
back-to-back games. Yeah, those back-to-back games were probably one of the most electric games I've ever played in.
That's super
Those were
cool to
both
hear.
fun.
That's super cool to hear. But yeah, now we'll just real quick, we'll just recap what the Phantoms had. Then we'll kind of go some fun questions just for the people to get to know the players a little bit. But it looks like the Phantoms do have Appleton West this week. Who gets the win? We'll
I'm
start.
taking Phantoms.
They're taking Phantoms. Score prediction there, Mr. Jack.
I'm gonna go 35 again, and I'm gonna go 35-10.
You really like that 35 number, don't you, big guy?
I do. I
Yeah.
do.
5 tutties. And Mr. Christian Collins.
I'm gonna have to go 42-7.
42-7. Dom. In
I'm
favor of
in-
Phantoms there, Christian?
Yes, Phantom.
Okay.
Yep,
Yep. Okay.
Phantoms.
Just double checking.
I'm in similar ballpark as Christian. West De Pere, they score points, and they score a lot of them because that Bayport defense is very, very good. And they scored 24 points in the fourth quarter, which is, against that defense, not easy to do. So I'm going to go West De Pere 49, and Appleton, I'm going to give them 7. I don't that West De Pere defense. I know they had a tough one against Bayport. That's part because Bayport's really good. I think Coach Grayson's going to get in their ear a little bit about this is what we need to shore up. This is where we need to be better. So 49-7, Phantoms will take full control of the North in the FRCC.
And I'm in a similar ballpark. I think the Phantoms hit 42, and I'm going to say Appleton West, excuse me. I'm going to say they get 20. 42-20. I wasn't real impressed with their defense yesterday, and that could be a credit to Bayport's offense, but I think they had a little struggles. But I think, last game of the year, I think the Appleton West is going to go all out, and they're going to get 20. Not to discredit anything from that Phantoms defense. I got a good friend, BJ Griffin, on that backside there, so I don't want to make him upset, but we'll go with that. And now we'll move towards the fun questions and just kind of getting to know the players. So let's talk about first, and first question I have is, what is your guys' favorite pregame snack before a game? We'll start with Christian.
Well, the pregame snack, man, Jack and I, and we bring a few friends, so it's like Jack and I, Carson Vandenhouten, and we just added a new one this week, Leo DeRuyter. We go to Chick-fil-A, same order every time, 8-piece chicken nugget, large fry, large lemonade. It's doesn't fail.
No? Jack, same thing?
Same thing.
That's actually pretty cool. Do you guys have a group name or anything? The Chick-fil-A
No.
boys?
No, but that's actually a pretty good idea. That's something we should do.
At least a group chat, or I don't know if you use a group chat or whatever. You guys should come up with a name. I would like to hear it, and maybe make shirts. The Chick-fil-A fellas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan into creating shirts
Sure.
for fun things. And then
Yeah.
I have another question here real quick because I'm hoping to get some more diverse answer. And we'll start with Mr. Jack. Jack, what is that one song that gets you pumped up before a game?
Ooh,
I know I put you on the spot here.
yeah.
It's all good though.
Well, there is one that we always walk out to practice. It's the one that goes like, X gonna give it to you. That one's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
hype.
DMX classic.
Or yeah, and then AC/DC always gets me hyped. My dad always used to play that for me, like summer baseball games before the game. My dad would blast, Hell's Bells or something like that. So, or Thunderstruck.
Hmm.
So that AC/DC always gets me going too.
And Mr. Christian, what are you bumping to before a game?
Oh man. I always like when we're at home and we're all warming up and they play Seven Nation Army. I think that's a really good warm up song. I think that and just for me, maybe just some like Little Baby or something, just like in the locker room before the game.
Yeah, those are both great songs and great options there. Dom, do you have any fun questions to ask for the fans?
Yeah, we'll go Christian and then Jack. If you could have, what's your go-to game day fit? What are you pulling up to the stadium in?
Oh man. I mean, we're going from school to mass, so I'd have to say probably just my school clothes. It's like a collared t-shirt and a pair of khakis, but if I were to actually have like a game day fit,
Yeah, pretend
like
you have like the suit and you're getting sponsored by people. What would it be?
okay, I would say probably like a not like overly flashy, just maybe like a just like a nice like all black suit.
Really,
I
suit
think
guy.
just like all black suit. I am a suit guy. I do like that. Yeah, I
I
like
was
the
gonna
look.
take you for a cutoff flannel with overall jorts.
I
Is that what
mean,
you want,
maybe.
Johnny?
Oh, that's what I'd wear if I was a running back like
Yeah.
him. Yeah, show off the legs a little bit. And then Mr. Jack, what's the suit? What's the clothing line look like? Are we wearing Louis Vuitton?
That's a good option. I always see like these crazy fits, NFL game days or whatever, the Packers rolling up to the game I'm a Bears fan. We're
Oh
both
my
Bears
gosh.
fans. Yeah, I know.
You
I
shouldn't have
shouldn't
told
have
him that.
said that. Oh
I know.
no.
My bad. My
I'm
bad.
gonna have to put the dolphin noise over that.
Please do. So, um, probably nothing too crazy like that, but if you see colleges, um, if they're away, they always roll up in nice suits. I feel like if everyone rolled up in a nice suit to an away game, that's always like a great sharp look. So I love the suit look. I'll probably go like I'll go I'll go navy suit, white undershirt, and then a green and blue and white striped tie.
Anything
Ooh.
on the inside of the suit?
Um,
Like in the inside the jacket, you have like a picture or a quote in there. Anything cool?
Maybe like 16 on one side, and then open it up on the other side, and then have like a quote.
There you go. There you go. Very cool options. Dom, any other questions for these gentlemen?
I got one more, and we'll go Jack and then Christian. Can you give us the best weight room story? What's the best thing that you guys have seen? Either someone PRing on, like, bench press, something like that. What was the best moment in the weight room this year?
This is tough. We were always giving
Yeah,
Jack
it's a
the tough
tough
one.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is a tough
this is a
one.
tough one.
That's a
This is
good
tough
question.
one. Uh, Probably I don't know.
That means that there's a lot of
That's a
them, which is
tough
good.
one. Yeah, but it's always just great to see all the boys grinding and working out together is always super fun. Singing the songs that we like and know together. That's always fun. And this year, on Wednesdays we play like these stupid white girl songs. We always sing to those. So that's fun. That's probably the best there.
There you go. Christian?
Christian?
I'm gonna have to say, I lift during the school day now, so I don't lift with the football team during season. But before then, I would say probably when I did lift with them, I would say probably just like when all the guys would. I don't have any specific time, but just kind of like when all the guys are around one rack, just kind of like hyping up the guys. Like you got like 30 guys around a rack yelling at someone to get that bar up. And I think that's really special. It kind of creates a bond between the team, and it kind of shows the dedication you have, and just kind of the excitement you have going into the season. Like you're just like really pumped up and you're ready to go. And I think that's awesome.
And I got one more real quick, and it's going to be for both the players here. What do you want the fans to know heading into the postseason? What should they expect from the Tritons?
They should expect us to work as hard as possible and make it to state. That's always the end goal, and I think this year we have a pretty good shot at state. And I hope to see Catholic Memorial at state. That'll be a really fun game.
Christian?
Um, I would just like to say, get your tickets now before they sell out.
I like that. I like that.
Nice. Nice.
All right, that'll wrap things up here today for High School Crunch Time. We had a special episode with Christian and Jack Collins. Once again, Dom D'Angelo and I are back at it for another week next week. But we had a lot of fun here today, fellas. It was a great show, and I hope you do tune in next time. Now, make sure to check us out on Spotify, High School Crunch Time, posted by WESPN, and on YouTube as well. We will have this posted up here pretty soon. But we want to wish everybody a happy last week of the high school football season, and best of luck to all the teams out there. So, signing off for Jack Collins, Christian Collins, Dom D'Angelo, I'm Johnny Samp, and have a great night.